Hello everybody, welcome back once again. I got another quick Clair Obscur Expedition 33 video for you here. This time we're going to be talking Act 1 Pictos. So let's get right into it. Uh, You'll notice here I've got Verso, so this is technically not Act 1 anymore, but there is one Pictos that you get from the Lamp Master battle, and so the only way to actually see that, of course, is to progress the story into Act 2. So again, just keep that in mind. But anyways, let's start up at the top here. The recovery. This is really difficult to get in Act 1 because it takes like 90,000 chroma to actually get this. But it's insane. 2,000 health, 324 defense, and recovers 10% health on turn start as the Lumina ability. So again, basically every Pictos has a what I would call a passive. And that's the little blurb on the bottom there again. So the recovery's got the recovers 10% health on turn start. Now, if you actually have this equipped, and then equip some other HP related stuff, like I've got auto shell here because it's got a 411 health on it, and then augmented counter 1 has 385. There might even be better ones than this one, but you can see there CL at level 35 with these Pictos has 3,487 health, which means she's getting, 348, 349 health back on her turn start, which is huge for this point in the game. So again, very, very good Pictos. I like that one a lot. And especially on actually somebody more like Lune, because she's able to heal, right? So if you make your healer, nigh immortal during Act 1, you don't even really need to worry about dodging and parrying that much, right? Unless aside from if you're playing on Expert and, it's just still easy to get one shot no matter what on Expert. But yeah, great setup for somebody that's going to be able to heal. First offensive, let me get my, oh wow, I really messed that one up. All right, let's talk about first offensive. 75 speed and 13% crit rate. This is a great one for me. I love speed and crit rate. Generally for Act 1, I'm always aiming for a 75% crit chance because the critical burn Pictos, gets you the 25% crit if something is burning. So that'll get you to obviously 100%. So I really try to get everybody up to the 75% crit rate. And I also should say that I build all of my characters luck first, and then work on agility second, and then might last. So that's kind of how I set up and how I build my characters. But anyways, again, 75 speed, 13% crit rate. That's phenomenal. First hit dealt and taken deals 50% more damage. Now I like that one a lot. A little bit risky, right? Because you're going to take a little bit more damage as well. But that first hit, honestly, I should say I usually have that on Lune because I like to have Lune act first for various reasons, mostly to apply burn to things with wildfire. But I think that's a really good Pictos. Also fairly cheap at a 5 Lumina cost, for the passive effect on that. At Death's Door, this is the one that you actually get from Lamp Master, so I actually don't have this one learned or anything yet, but it says deal 50% more damage if health is below 10%. That's kind of nice, and especially more towards the end game. In Act 1, I don't find this, well, you can't technically really get it until the very end of Act 1, so I don't find it that, and I should say early Act 2 even, I don't find it that useful, just because I don't find a time where I really feel like I need it that much. But that said, if you want to play very, glass cannon, run around at low HP all the time, At Death's Door actually is very, very good. I mean, a 50% increased damage is really nice. The problem, though, for me is, mid to late Act 2, most of your characters are going to be hitting somewhere around 9,999 anyway. And so you're just running around, basically at Death's Door. And you don't really need to be because you don't need that extra damage. But anyways, augmented counter 1 is great. The stats on this one I'm not so impressed with, but 25% increased counterattack damage. I love that because, again, I parry for basically everything. If you don't parry or don't want to, or you like to dodge instead, then this is not going to be useful to you at all. That's just not going to do anything for you. Perilous Parry, again, another great ability, though, for me, because I like to parry all the time and not take damage. So, +1 AP on parry, but damage received is doubled, right? That's got a major downside to it if you're not able to parry. So, again, not going to be useful for everyone, but I absolutely love it. One of my favorite Pictos in the game, actually. Next up is Powerful Revive. I also don't find this one useful because I don't really ever let my characters die, but apply Powerful for 3 turns when revived. That's great, right? You might as well, and it's a fairly cheap, right, at a 3 Lumina point cost for that passive. The stats, though, on this are really good, though, too. 54 speed, 11 crit rate. I actually really like that just for the stats alone. Auto Death. This is a fun one in combination with Death Bomb. So a 26% crit rate, kill self on battle start, and then again, here's the Death Bomb. On death, deal damage to all enemies. The combination is really good. There's some other Pictos abilities that you can get later on, like I think it's like Burn on Death or something like that, or Burning Death or something like that. That'll apply burn stacks whenever your character dies to the enemies too. So it does make a really interesting combo. I don't really use it that much because it seems a little cheesy, but it is neat, right? Your character just blows up and then deals a bunch of damage to enemies. So honestly, it's pretty funny to watch it in action. So I can appreciate that. Here's Auto Shell. Apply Shell for 3 turns on battle start. I don't really find this one that useful, mostly because, again, I'm not really taking damage, so I don't really care about having Shell. But it could be good, especially if you're not that great at parrying or dodging. And honestly, I think that's probably best used for random encounters, though even boss fights, it's probably not a bad thing, right, to be starting off with Shell. I don't like the cost, though, at 10 Lumina points for that. Break and Counter, 50% increased break damage on counterattack. Again, phenomenal if you're able to actually parry, during boss battles. I mean, even technically random encounters this is good for as well, but I really do like that. That's a really, really good ability. And the Pictos itself is pretty good too, right? 43 speed, 10% crit rate. And I should say, a lot of these will get a lot better, later on in the game, and especially during like a new game plus, if you play that long. All these Pictos will be upgraded by quite a bit, and thus the stats will be a lot better. But anyways, breaking shots. 50% increased break damage with free aim shots. That's great, too. Good stats on this Pictos as well. Also a great cost. Only a 1 Lumina point investment if you want to be using this. And again, I think for random encounters, this is great. Just a little bit of extra break damage with those free aim shots. I think that's really, really good. Confident, great for stats. I don't really find the Pictos itself, the passive ability, that useful, but it does say take 50% less damage, but you can't be healed, right? So that's if you're really if you think that you might take a hit here or there. But yeah, it's appropriately named, right? Confident, right? If you're confident in your abilities, you'll take a little bit less damage. Again, can't get yourself healed though, so very expensive. That I feel like that's way too expensive for the benefit that you get out of that. But again, I don't really use it that much anyway, so I don't really care that much. But I do like the stats, speed and crit. Death Bomb, already been over this. Great. I actually really like the stats especially. I don't really use the actual effect, but it is really cool. Energizing Attack 1, +1 AP on base attack, 62 speed, 5% crit rate. It's a little expensive, so if you do like it, I think especially during Act 1, and I think that it's pretty good on, mostly on, I guess either Lune for me. I don't really use Seal that much, RCL, and then Gustav especially. I actually really like that on Gustav because I actually do a lot of attacking, or like using the base attack with Gustav. So I do find the energizing attack to be pretty decent for him. Energizing pain. This is really good if you're bad at parrying. No longer gain AP on parry, but +1 AP on getting hit. So again, actually pretty interesting. Maybe one of these days I'll actually do a playthrough where I try to not parry, but this could be kind of interesting for that, right? If your goal is to actually get hit. That's an interesting one. Very, very interesting. Anyways, next up is Enfeebling Mark. Mark targets deal 30% less damage. I don't find this useful at all. The problem, especially early game with Mark, is, one hit and it's gone. So if you do parry and then you counterattack, boom, your Mark is gone. But yeah, I just don't find this to be that good. First Strike, I love. Play First. I really like this one specifically on Lune for boss battles, right? Or anytime that you're not able to initiate First Strikes, right? So First Strike, the Pictos, and the ability is really no good if you're during or for random encounters, right? As long as you are initiating the battle with whatever it is, the right bumper, because that essentially is First Strike, or it's kind of the same thing. But there are battles like the boss battles where you can't do that, and so First Strike is very, very nice. I like it on Lune specifically because I usually like to start out with like a wildfire or sometimes a slow right off the bat, right? Specifically the wildfire, though, to get everybody's crit rate up, right? Because her acting first is very, very beneficial to get burn stacks on enemies so that everybody can get the other 25% crit rate from critical burn. So again, great Pictos, also good speed, good crit rate. I like everything about that one. Healing Tint Energy. It says Healing Tints also give 1 AP. I never use these, and so I don't find that to be useful. Also, I don't really like the stats on this either, health and defense. I don't know why Male has that equipped. I probably was learning that with her and then didn't take it off. So anyways, SOS Power. Same deal here. I don't really, take damage, and so I don't find this to be that useful, though the stats are really good. Speed and, a 10% crit rate on that. But it says apply powerful when falling below 50% health. That could be useful, though, on Mael if you're using Last Chance, right? Because that'll drop her, into the danger zone. So, that could be a good combo, at least for her. I think Verso might have something like that too, but we're still talking Act 1, right? Teamwork, phenomenal. Basically, this should be on everybody, right? 10% increased damage while all allies are active. I don't really like the stats on this one, but I like the passive. And then on top of that, it's only a 5 Lumina point for a 10% increase in damage. Again, I think everyone should basically have that. Accelerating Last Stand. Gain Rush if fighting alone. Very, very good in specific areas, right? So like any of the Gestural Arena stuff, a lot of times you'll have to fight alone when you're taking on the Gestural merchants in the game. So again, very, very good ability, or a good-ish ability. And I actually used this a lot when I was fighting to get recovery, right? I farmed the Gestural Arena for a long time, and Julian Tinyhead has really been feeling the pain. But again, I think that there's a lot of these that are really good for that. Any of the fighting alone stuff. So again, pretty good Pictos. Augmented First Strike. This is another good one that I really like on Lune. And not only the Pictos itself, but the passive ability. The Pictos has good stats, speed and crit rate, and then 50% increased damage on the first hit, and then once per battle. Again, just a good way to start out the battle. I like to have Lune start out with like a wildfire, right? So it gets burn stacks on everybody, and she does a bunch more damage because of like the augmented First Strike. So next up is Empowering Last Stand. Again, this is another one of those great if you're fighting alone. I don't love the health on this one, but the 10% crit rate's pretty good. Also, these are both very cheap, right? Only 3 Lumina points to keep that on. But yeah, great and powerful when fighting alone. That's really, really good. Energizing Start is great. Same with Energizing Start 3. It's just extra AP on Battle Start, right? This one's only a 5 Lumina point cost, which is awesome. Unfortunately, 3, though, is 15, which makes the Pictos itself a little bit more valuable during Act 1, right? Because it's so expensive. And extra AP when the battle starts is very, very good, right? That's 1 extra free aim shot or 1 AP that you might be able to use on a skill. Last Stand critical. This is great. Again, especially if you're dueling or fighting alone. 100% crit chance while you're alone. Very cheap as well. 3 Lumina point cost. I don't like the stats on that Pictos, but again, great passive. Protecting Last Stand, I don't find this as good because I don't care about shell, right? Because I'm not really taking damage anyway because I parry everything. But gaining shell of fighting alone can be great. Every once in a while, Julian might get a little lucky and land a hit, so having shell on you is a good thing. Solo fighter, this is great. 50% more damage if fighting alone. Also a 1 Lumina point cost for that. That's so good. Stats I don't love, but everything else about that I really, really like. Augmented aim, 50% increased free aim damage. This is great. You probably should have that on everybody. And even the speed and crit rate on there is always nice to see. But also very cheap, right? 3 Lumina point cost. Very, very good. Breaker, also another good ability. I don't love the 10 Lumina point cost, but this is really good. 25% increased break damage. Probably not as useful for random encounters, but pretty good for boss battles. Next up is Critical Moment. 26 speed, 9% crit rate. 50% increased critical chance if health is below 30%. I don't really find this that useful, because my characters are really never low on HP, but also I build crit anyway, so I don't need the extra crit from this anyway. So, but it can be really good during Act 1 if you're using Mael and using Last Chance. But again, I don't really think that this one's that great, especially not for the way that I play. But anyways, Healing Mark, recover 25% health on hitting a marked enemy once per turn. This is just way too expensive for what you're getting out of this. It's not that easy to mark things. You either have to like blow somebody's turn or you're trying to get lucky with free aim shots. So, recovering 25% health on hitting the marked enemy once per turn is pretty meh. I just don't really find that this is that good. I think if the Lumina point cost was reduced by quite a bit, maybe it'd be a little bit more attractive. But it is not a good way to heal yourself. Or we'll leave it at that. Healing parry, I also don't find this one to be that great, even though I parry all the time. That's the thing, though, right? If you're parrying all the time, you're not taking damage. You don't need health. I also am not impressed by the stats on this. The 5 Lumina point cost isn't too bad, though. Roulette is really good for a specific amount of time during Act 1. The problem here is once your characters start hitting about 5,000 damage regularly, Roulette is not really worth using anymore, right? Because of the damage cap. That does change, though, once you break the damage cap again during Act 3. Or I think it's technically the beginning of Act 3, this becomes relevant again. But for a little while during Act 1, this actually is pretty good. Every hit has a 50% chance to deal either 50% or 200% of its damage. So again, at the beginning, or once your characters are only hitting, or if your characters are only hitting around 1,000 or so, Roulette's really, really good because you can really pump out some damage with it. But again, once they're doing a little bit too much damage, like again around the 5,000 mark, this becomes not really worth using anymore. Attack lifesteal, recover 15% health on base attack. Again, because I don't take any damage, really, I don't find this useful. It's also way too expensive, 15 Lumina points to be keeping that on. I don't find that that's very good, but it does scale well, right? Like if you load up on a bunch of health, this could be really, really good. So like an attack lifesteal plus the recovery Pictos is a really good combo early on in the game, right? And you know, you don't really need to parry if you've got so much health and you're you know, recovering a ton of it constantly. So again, it can be actually really good with you know, in combination with other Pictos. But I guess potentially if you're building like Vitality or something as well, although I don't recommend doing that. Burning Mark. Apply burn on hitting a marked enemy. That's kind of nice, but this is way too expensive. 15 Lumina point cost for this. Maybe if it was like 5, it would be more attractive, but that's just way too much. So I don't really use this that much at all. Certainly not for the stats, but also don't really equip it for the Lumina point cost. Way later on in the game, when we've got a bunch of extra Luminas, it becomes more attractive. But during Act 1, I just don't think that this is that good. Energizing jump is good, but only it's very situational, right? This doesn't do you any good if you're not doing any jump counters. So there's a lot of bosses where this just isn't really worth using because you're not doing jump counterattacks. But when you do, you know, 1 extra AP is always a good thing. And of course, if you're doing a jump counter, you're not technically parrying, so you're not getting the extra AP from like a perilous parry, or well, I guess just, you know, regularly parrying gets you 1 AP, but this isn't going to do that, or jump counterattacks aren't going to do that. So it can be a good way to get some extra AP on you know, certain, again, like bosses where you're getting jump counters. Anyways, next up is Stun Boost. 30% increased damage on stun targets. This is too expensive, in my opinion, in terms of Lumina points for Act 1 to be really using, right? That and everything just kind of, well, usually because I'm probably too over-leveled, but things are just falling apart too fast for this to really merit the Lumina point cost. That said, once you break the damage cap, this does get a lot better, right? You know, a 30% increased damage on, and usually, you know, a stun target is something that you've broke, right? Or you use break, and so it can be a good way to get a little bit of extra damage on stuff like that. But again, I think the cost is too high for Act 1. Energizing Break, 3 AP on breaking a target. I actually really like this on Gustav for Act 1 because I usually am breaking things with him, right? So basically you can break, and then his next turn he can probably use like another Lumiere Assault to build up his charge again. And then the following turn after that you can probably try to, you know, use like Overcharge or something one more time. But again, I think that generally that's good on him. It's also okay for Mael if you've got Mael breaking instead. You know, Lune can do it as well if you're doing like a Mayhem or something like that. But yeah, this is pretty situational, and honestly, I think that I usually have a designated character that I'm doing breaks with, so I usually don't put it on many other people, right? So it's usually just one. Speed and crit rate on that as well. This is unfortunately only a level 3, so the stats are really low too. Exposing attack. Base attack applies defenseless for 1 turn. This is really good, especially for, you know, I would actually argue for someone like Gustav, because I use the base attack a lot more with him. I guess even kind of somewhat Lune, but I shouldn't have this on Mael because I basically never use the base attack with her. But yeah, there's a lot of the abilities that Pictos abilities that trigger off of using base attacks, right? So kind of just loading up a character with a lot of these abilities is a good thing. Also, unfortunately though, this is a 10 Lumina point cost, so if we're talking Act 1, you probably want to have the Pictos actually equipped. And again, I would argue probably pretty good on somebody like Gustav. Marking shots, 20% chance to apply a mark on free aim shot. That actually is really good. I wish the chance was a little higher, but you know, you throw enough free aim shots at something, there's a really good chance that you're going to get mark on it. I think it's energizing mark. Is that the one? Let me just see. I'll have to find it now. Yeah. Oh. Where is that? Or is it? Oh, I'm sorry. It's rewarding mark, I bet. Let me see that. Am I effing? There it is. Rewarding mark. So you can do marking shots, obviously. 20% chance to apply the mark on the free aim shot. And then once per turn, you'll get the 2 AP on dealing damage to the marked target, right? So you can mark it, shoot it one more time for the extra 2 AP. Really good little combo here. You know, 8 Lumina point investment for that. I don't like the stats on this because it's got the defense on it and not crit, but again, great passive effect, especially if you're using a lot of free aim shots and marking. So SOS shell, it's actually kind of a perfect combo, right? Like apply shell when falling below 50% health. Like that's exactly when you want shell, right? You want to reduce the damage when you're taking damage. But the problem for me is I don't really take that much damage because I'm parrying all the time. So I don't really find this one that useful, but it definitely can be. And I would argue probably, you know, really good for people that have a high HP pool, right? Like that's going to trigger shell earlier. It's not really going to do you that much good if you have like no HP whatsoever. You know, okay, so I got shell if I'm below 50% health, but you know, if your HP is too low that you can't take any hits anyway, then that isn't doing you any good. So fairly cheap Lumina point cost. Obviously, I don't really like the stats on it, but yeah, it can be a decent effect paired up with something else, right? Like the recovery Pictos, because that's giving you like 2,000 health. Could be really, really good to throw that on someone like, again, like a Lune, right? I would, you know, build a bunch of HP on her, toss a SOS shell on her, and make her kind of immortal, and kind of a res machine if you need her to be. So, staggering attack, 50% increased break damage on base attack. Again, good for somebody like Gustav. Love the Lumina point cost at 1, right? That's really good. Very, very cheap. So I think that's a pretty good one for someone like him. Versatile. After a free aim hit, base attack damage is increased by 50% for 1 turn. Again, this is another really, really good Pictos effect. You know, I typically, if I'm going to be using a lot of free aim shots, it's going to be for random encounters. I'm going to blow a bunch of free aims, probably get down to like 0, and then use a base attack to finish it off, right? So you're going to get that extra 50% damage. I think that this one's pretty good. 5 Lumina point cost isn't too bad. You know, as usual, I wish it was a little bit cheaper, but that's pretty good. And then augmented attack here, another really, really good Pictos. 50% increased base attack damage. Again, love this on someone like Gustav for Act 1. Combine this with Versatile and all of the like free aim stuff, right? And you can just do a lot of really good damage with him. 7 Lumina point cost though. I generally, if I'm going to use this, I like to actually equip it, right? Because the 7 Lumina point cost is a little on the high side for something like this, but honestly probably worth it. Next up is burning shots. 20% chance to burn on free aim shot. This is great. If you're not using someone like a Lune for wildfire and, you know, getting fire on, or burn stacks on all enemies at once, you can try for it using burning shots instead. You know, I don't like, again, the only 20% chance. That's not great, but you know, a little bit of speed, a little bit of crit, and a very, very cheap Lumina point cost there at 3. So that's a pretty good one. Cleansing Tint I don't use. Healing Tints also remove all status effects from the target. That's nice, but again, I don't use these, so this doesn't do me any good. I don't like the stats on it, and a 5 Lumina point cost is honestly, in my opinion, too much. Critical Burn. This is just great. I absolutely love this. I put it on everybody. Generally, that is what I do for Act 1 because you just aren't going to have enough crit rate between your Pictos and your luck stat to get you to 100% during Act 1. So that's where critical burn comes in. Again, and I mentioned this earlier, that generally my first turn, it's going to be like Lune using Wildfire to get burn on everything. And then everybody, as long as we've got the correct Pictos equipped, we're going to have somewhere around a 75% crit chance before critical burn. And then again, critical burn is going to get us the other 25% of the way. So that's generally how I do it. And that's going to get you, again, the 100% crit rate then on burning enemies. I think that's great for everybody. And it's a fairly cheap cost there at 5 Lumina points. Dead Energy. These are great. Any of the dead... we actually only have, I think, access to Dead Energy 2 right now. I think early on in Act 2, you'll get Dead Energy 1 as well, if I remember right. But 3 AP on killing an enemy, that is so big. Really, what I oftentimes am doing is trying to either kill things using free aim shots during random encounters, or at least getting them very, very low, right, on HP, so that another member can finish it off and get the extra AP because of the dead energy. These are just so good. Again, Dead Energy 1 and 2, again, 1 is going to be, I think, towards the beginning of Act 2, but these are just really, really good. Highly, highly recommend having these, especially for the random encounters. Not useful for boss encounters, so you can actually take this back off, but it's also only 2 Lumina point, for having that on. So again, for any of the random encounters leading up to bosses, I highly recommend putting Dead Energy on pretty much everybody. Dodger, this is good if you just dodge. Although, of course, it has to be a perfect dodge. And then only once per turn, though, that's not that great, which is honestly why, dodging is nowhere near as good as parrying in this game. And so I don't really find this Pictos useful at all to me. But if you struggle with parrying, it definitely can be good, right? Just getting 1 extra AP, if you can manage to get the timing down, perfectly, is going to be a good thing for you. And then Empowering Attack. Gain powerful 1 for 1 turn on base attack. That's great. Again, for somebody like, especially for someone like Gustav, who I oftentimes am using that base attack. Unfortunately, the Lumina point cost here is way too high, so you probably want to actually have this equipped. But again, really, really good effect for, so again, someone like Gustav or really, anybody that's using a lot of base attacks. But all right, just wanted to toss in, actually, there was another one of the energizing starts that I needed to throw in here. I realized that I had missed it, so I had to go back and grab it. But it's Energizing Start 2. So all 3 of them are very good. So Energizing Start 1, 2, and 3 are very good. And then, of course, they go up in Lumina cost for each version. Basically, Energizing Start 1 is 5 Lumina points, Energizing Start 2 is 10, and then Energizing Start 3 is 15. But all 3 of them are very good. Of course, an extra AP when the battle starts is always a good thing. Unfortunately, they do get more expensive as they go, so that can be a little bit difficult. But I really do think that all 3 of them are worth having. 1 extra free aim shot, or 1 more AP so that you can start out with with some skill that you like is going to be really good to help out. As far as the actual stats, I don't love that it's just health, but it is what it is. And for somebody like if you want to use the combo that I was referring to earlier there with recovery, having a bunch of extra health can be a good thing to start out with. So that is Energizing Start 2. Anyways, that is it. That is all the Pictos. I think that's my opinions here are well known now on some of these, but really, again, anything that's got speed and crit I prefer. Anything to do with pairing I love. stack, you know, a lot of your free aim stuff for your random encounters. That's kind of one of the other things too, though. If you're doing a boss encounter, you can take a lot of that stuff back off. The free aim stuff, you know, if you're not really using free aim, which I generally don't do a whole lot of during boss battles, right? I'm focused more on skills usually. So you can save yourself, some Lumina points that way and equip other things. But anyways, that is it for the Act 1 Pictos. As always, hope the guide was helpful, and thanks for watching.